Blackmate Wukong received a huge update, and if you want to know everything about the latest and greatest, you are in the right place. I've completed every Gauntlet Legend currently and acquired all of the new rewards. I went back to the drawing board and spent hours testing all of the new items available. So ultimately, I can give you a clear idea of how the latest features and items work, so you can decide if you want to go for the new items to improve your builds in this huge update. Starting with the map feature, which is fantastic, especially for players who just started their first playthrough, and for returning players as well. Although I am used to not having an actual map when playing Souls-like titles, no doubt that having a detailed and eye-candy actual map will save a lot of time, especially for returning players who are still collecting stuff or completing side quests that they left off. Not only they can put markers, but you can actually fast travel right off the bat by just selecting a previously visited shrine on your map to teleport. Players will be able to buy the actual map per chapter, also known as the Journeyer's Chart, in any of the shrines in the field. I lost count on how many times I got lost, especially in chapter 4, so I cannot stress how helpful this is. Since not many people have so much time on their hands, this is a huge plus. Blackmate Wukong was known for its good and notorious bosses, and game science raised the bar to the next level by releasing Return of Rivals and the proper boss rush mode, Gauntlet of Legends. Return of Rivals is basically a mode where you can challenge all of the bosses that you have defeated in your playthrough. Players will then have access to fight each of these bosses under 3 difficulties, which is Pilgrim being the easiest, Young Sage being the middle ground, and Great Sage for being the most difficult among the 3. Hardcore players will surely love the Great Sage difficulty, as it can extremely be tough, to the point that bosses can delete a fully built old Wukong build with 900 plus defense in a single hard-hitting attack. Luckily, the majority of players are not required to complete the said tier, as the Return of Rivals feature is completely for challenge and practice purposes only, while Gauntlet of Legends is totally a different story and is where the fun begins. Players will be required to defeat a wave of bosses while managing their limited resources to complete the challenge. So boss rush lovers, I can confirm that this feature will surely satisfy your cravings and will put anyone's skill to the test. When a player defeats a certain boss, the player will immediately be transferred to the next boss arena, retaining the player's current health and mana, while the system is kind enough to replenish 2 gourd charges after every fight. So if you've used all of your gourd charges in the first round, you will only have 2 charges left for the upcoming rounds. So a good amount of knowledge about the fight and skill are obviously required. The Gauntlet Legends started as simple matches where you will be fighting our old tiger bosses friends in succession and quickly ramp up to beating 6 bosses in succession. I am telling you, the endgame set of bosses will test your limits, and if you are looking for a thrill, this boss rush mode check all of the boxes in my experience. The great thing is that this feature is not all about the challenge, since you will be rewarded with new crafting materials to craft new weapons and get new gear as well. New weapons and gear that can offer new things to the table and worth getting in my opinion. In celebration of the upcoming Chinese New Year, Game Science sent every Destin 1 with a free upgradable set, which is the Opulent set, and it can be acquired by claiming it as a Trailblazer gift in any Keeper Shrine. Aside from this set's stunning design, it will allow the players to release firecrackers when casting Ring of Fire. Note that the firecrackers do not damage enemies, which is a downer to be honest. Its unique effect increases movement speed after performing level 3 or 4 charge heavy attack, while also reducing stamina costs of all action. Another unique effect as well is giving the user a short window of invincibility when doing jump light attacks. Wearing 2 set pieces will massively reduce stamina costs of jumping, but upgrading it to mythical tier will only add 4 set effects that will let the firecrackers burst continuously when using the Ring of Fire. Maybe you are wondering if this set is worth upgrading. Ultimately, I don't think this is worth upgrading at all, as its mythical upgrade effect is obviously for visual purposes only. Unless you want to max out everything like me for completion purposes, save your hard-earned celestial ribbons. Moving on to the Gauntlet Challenge rewards. The first one on the list is the Glimmering Scale Pellets, and Longstaff users will surely love this new medicine. A medicine that you can craft with usual materials, and upon usage, this item increases the raw attack stat of Longstaffs by 10 to 12% after testing. But what is good about this medicine is it stacks with Tiger Subduing Pellets or other medicines, so you can quickly stack up your raw attack stat. Moving on to the soak and drinks, and sour wine is the latest drink that increases charge attack damage by 4 to 5%. I see this drink as one of my staples from now on, making my charge attacks hit even way harder. The additional attack it provides sounds not that great, but if you are dealing huge damage with one-shot or burst setups, you will be seeing significant increase, especially if you master the Yaksha Demon build that I have showcased in my top 8 builds. This drink will do wonders for this specific setup. Pair the sour wine with the robust antler and you will be seeing even more attack increase. This brand new soak adds 8 to 10% raw attack stat that lasts for 15 seconds. But the caveat is, the user needs to have 0 mana before consuming a gourd charge for the robust antler to take effect or proc. But nonetheless, this is going to be one of my top soaks, especially when playing with spellbinder setups. The Frost Enduring Chrysanth is going to be a great soak for our crowd control builds, or we know it as the Stun God build. This can be tremendously useful when combined with the Sunset of the Ninth Sky drink, as it charges the user's chi after the user consumes a gourd charge while having low mana. To show how good this item is, take the staple Apramana Bot and Plantain Fan combination as an example. At 0 chi charges for both Vessel and Spirit, it only takes 5 gourd charges to recharge the Plantain Fan and 6 charges to get the Apramana Bat ready again, and this is huge. But when this soak is not present, it will take a user 10 gourd charges to make the Apramana Bat ready to use, while 7 for Plantain Fan. Clearly, this soaks offers a lot of value to the strongest build in the game. If you are getting value out of this video so far, consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and engaging in the comments helps me a lot, and thank you for your support. The latest curios are next on the list, and the ever-burning Palace Lantern imbues the user's light attack combos with fire when the Ring of Fire spell buff is active. Now this sounds enticing, but the reality is that this curio provides little value overall, and I suggest not using it at all. I don't know about you, but the main reason is that fighting in the Ring of Fire spell can be janky at times, and I don't like forcing the boss to stay near the Ring of Fire just to take advantage of the lantern's effect. This curio could be potentially useful if the Ring of Fire has a wide range, or this curio can make the mobile spin inflict Firebane as well. Not to mention, one of the latest tab, which I will get into later on, can inflict Firebane on enemies consistently. The Stone Tiger Tiley is another curio that looks good on paper but is abysmal in real-time combat. This curio increases the user's critical chance by 2% when seeing through enemy attacks. This buff is actually stackable, granting a potential 12% critical chance if the user manages to see through enemy attacks 6 times in a row. Now you might be wondering, how is that even possible? Well, that's the main question, especially since the buff only lasts for 5 seconds. So after seeing through an enemy, the user will only have 5 seconds to stack the buff or else it will expire. No matter how the good user is, I found this curio not so great because after seeing through an enemy, the user tends to finish the see-throughs with staggering attacks, meaning the enemies will be staggered, so it will take its time to recover, and by the time the enemy recover, the buff already expired. The Fragment of the Ocean Settling Pillar increases the duration of Wukong's stance by 2 whole minutes, and that's reasonable enough. And plus, increases the user attacks further when in Wukong's stance by 10 to 11%. Now if you are a diehard fan of Wukong's stance, you will thank Game Science for this curio. Not only you can stay in Wukong's stance for the entirety of some of the boss fights, but you can also enjoy a decent increase in damage. If you are following my Wukong guides, you know that I am not a fan of this stance, as I find the long combos as a loss of damage per second, and the abysmal stance duration in the past plagues its gameplay. So somehow the Fragment of the Ocean curio patch it up, but still, it's nothing too crazy. A new headgear can be obtained in the Gauntlet Challenge, and it is the 3-Hill Crown. If the previous curio was made for Wukong stance lover, this headgear will make thrust stance users happy. What this headgear does is it imbues the Tri-Point Spear's normal attack with flying swords, but smaller ones compared to the ones appearing when the spear's special animation procs. What is crazy about this is its actual damage output. I've rigidly tested the Tri-Point Spear's normal attacks and compared it to the strongest setups currently, like the Yaksha's Dark Iron Staff combo or the original Wukong Dark Iron Staff combo. Surprisingly, the damage output of the Tri-Point Spear with the headgear equipped is hitting the same damage range as the Yaksha setup, and that is insane. It even beat the original Wukong light attack combo damage, but there's a caveat. You might be thinking, hey Samurai, that's insane. My Tri-Point Spear can now hit hard like the Yaksha. This might be true, but don't forget that the increased damage that the headgear provides only applies to your light attack combos, so the damage output of the Tri-Point Spear will remain unchanged. especially if we are talking about the charge heavy attacks. If you watch my top weapon list guide, the Fuban staff is even hitting way more damage even a thrust stance when pulling a level 4 charge heavies compared to the tri-point spear. One additional downside is you are going to be stuck on armor sets that provides 3 set effects, so consider this as well. This new headgear and curios may be great, but I see the new weapons as the greatest rewards in this whole challenge, as they can be the backbone of a build. First on the list is the Lian Centipede Staff, which has a raw attack stat of 130 and adds 15% critical hit chance, with a unique effect of recovering the user's HP when performing charge heavy attacks. When the enemy is poisoned, it even recovers more health. After rigid testing, the effect it provides does not have that much of a value, since even if the enemy was poisoned, the additional HP you gain is not that huge, especially the devs using the word massively. It can be potentially useful if it heals HP significantly, like 60 to 70% of your total HP, and it could work in an immortal HP regen build. But a dear lord and lady might ask how this staff performs in centipede builds. The short answer is that you are still better off using the Fuban staff. The Ching Mallet is a different story though, having an attack of whopping 140 and with a bonus of plus 40 mana to your build. This staff is basically the upgraded version of the reworked Spike Shop staff, which I featured in a recent build, and I found it a generally good staff, so the Ching Mallet can even step up the game. Just like its previous version, it adds 125 focus points, which translates to a 1 focus point and a 1/4 of the focus gauge filled. What good thing about this effect, while it's accumulating focus points, after seeing through an enemy, your follow-up attacks can still gain more focus points, so you will be gaining charges pretty quickly. Curios like Tiger Tendon will work well on this staff, and potentially the not so great Tiger Stone Tally. The Fang Science staff is the best reward in this whole gauntlet challenge, having a 132 raw attack stats and adding 12% critical chance. Great stats to start, but the main reason why it's great is it can 100% inflict elemental banes on enemies after performing a level 4 charge heavy attack. A versatile spear that can change its element by just changing its stance and hitting enemies with a full charge attack. On top of that, after inflicting the enemy with an elemental bane, the Fang Science staff will imbue the user's like attack combos with that same element. Although the elemental imbued buff applied to your staff has its own duration, I noticed that its time span is significantly long and you can easily refresh it since you are going to be hitting targets with level 4 charge heavy attacks anyways. So because of this, you can maintain an elemental loop of fire damage over time, or enemies can suffer from additional damage frequently because of the Thunderbane status. The Smash Stance on the other hand summons Erlang's Axe to deal a second damage source on top of the level 4 charge heavy attack. The axe will then damage the enemy upon impact and release a powerful shockwave that covers a very wide range. How I wish the Thunderbane element was placed on the Smash Stance instead of the Thrust Stance, and I think the damage will be even greater. This whole major update is an absolute win, but if you are a beginner and looking for the best leveling spots in the game, click on these videos and I will catch you on the next one.